Today I'm doing my monthly manga reading log for May. I read 93 volumes from 20 different series, including 3 manhwa series. And I'm going to go through and talk about each series. I apologize in advance that I'll probably pronounce a few Chinese names and titles wrong, but I'll do my best. There will be timestamps below, so if I'm talking about a series that you're not interested in, you can feel free to skip to a different section, and after going through all my May reads, I'll share some of the series I'm planning to read in June. But before I get started, just a reminder that I'll have links in the description to my anime list where I track all the manga I read and the anime I watch, and a link to my Instagram account where I share my current reads and thoughts in my stories as I'm reading. So here are my reads for May. So my first reads were volume 105 and the chapters that will make up volumes 106 and into 107 of One Piece. I really enjoyed my recent full read through of the series. I gave my full thoughts on One Piece in my April reading log since I read all of the series in April aside from these 2 volumes, so I'll put up a link to that video, but I caught up on the latest chapter releases and I'll be following it now with the weekly releases on the Shonen Jump app. I also read Shokungeki no Sanji, which is a single volume spin-off by the creators of Food Wars. And I really loved it. I wasn't sure about it at first because in the first chapter, there's a very heavyset woman who very greedily eats her meal and has eaten the strip fruit. So then in typical Food Wars fashion, when she enjoys her food, her clothes and excess fat are dramatically ripped off of her body. But then after that, I really enjoyed the remaining chapters. So they follow Sanji and focus on him cooking different dishes in different settings, like on the ship, in Alabasta, in Wano. So I thought it was really cool to see, but then also to see his extra interactions with other characters from those arcs. But I'm really glad I saw this one on the Shonen Jump app because it doesn't have an English physical release. And as you can see, since reading it, I have ordered a physical copy in Japanese. But Sanji is my favorite character in One Piece, so it was really fun to see a whole volume focused on him in a different art style. And I definitely recommend this to any One Piece fans, especially if you like Sanji, obviously, or if you like food and cooking content. I also read 133 chapters of a manhwa series, Mosspaca Advertising Department. After reading 19 Days a few months ago, I'd been considering getting the creator's art books, but after watching flip-through videos, I realized I didn't know half of the characters in each of the art books, and I only recently found out that a lot of those characters were from this series, so I wanted to get to it right away. This series is a parody about the daily life of Old Jian. I didn't realize until reading it that this was actually a collaboration work between both Old Jian and another artist, Tanjiu, and that they're actually both women depicting themselves as men in the story, and then the third main character is based on their studio head. But I found the story really funny. It's extremely episodic. The series starts with slice of life chapters of the trio, and then partway through, a big chunk of the chapters feature the ads they're working on, some being really funny and sarcastic, and some being more wholesome. But the art style and the humor are really similar to 19 Days, so if you enjoy that series, I definitely recommend this one as well. And then after reading this manhwa, I wanted to read something from Tanjiu to see what her art style and storytelling were like. and I found these 2 short stories by her, both one-shots. So first, Daguanjia, or Housekeeper, which was about the relationship of 2 young boys after the death of their mother. It was a very quick read, but it got their emotions across. And then the other was Yuanyi, or The Art of Gardening. This one was about a high school boy who has houseplants that he cares for, and then one day one of the plants comes to life and looks just like him. I found it cute and amusing, but again, as a one-shot, it was a super quick read. And then also, after reading Mosspaca, I realized I was behind on 19 Days, which is another series by Old Jian. So I read chapters 409 to 428. I couldn't remember where I left off, so some of it was a reread, and then I continued to the latest chapter release. I usually don't share in my logs the ongoing series I'm following, unless I read a good chunk of chapters, so I thought I'd include it since I had just read another of her series. But these chapters are just past a really intense, drama-filled section of the story, so some of it is a bit feel-good, but then there is some sad content regarding the family of one of these characters, and in these sections, the characters are really starting to rely on each other more. Loving Yamada-kun at level 999. I read volumes 1 to 9. This is a romance series between an extrovert girl in college and an introvert boy in high school who meet through an online game. While the boy is more serious about gaming, the girl got into the game with her ex-boyfriend who, in chapter 1, dumps her after having met another girl in the game. My favorite character is Eita. He's very perceptive, really kind, and is such a good senpai and brother. He's definitely the one person holding everyone together and just watching over everyone. It did bother me a little how casually the series portrayed meeting up with people from online in real life. I feel like a guild meetup as an event is one thing, but just agreeing to meet someone who seems nice just because their avatar is a cute girl character can actually be really dangerous. I feel like they took it really lightly in the story and then mentioned the dangers of being naive about it. But then still just every situation that could have been dangerous was resolved in a really lighthearted way. So I really hope that anyone watching the anime or reading the manga will realize that there are predators out there, and the way people act online and the way their avatars or profile pictures look aren't necessarily accurate depictions of them in real life. But overall, I enjoyed my read. The main characters are all really fun and likable, and I find the story interesting. A Condition Called Love. I read volumes 10 to 12 of this shoujo high school romance series. I had already read through volume 10 digitally, and I was going to pause there and just reread the series as a physical volumes release, and then continue past volume 10 when the physical volumes caught up. But I got impatient after seeing mixed opinions on volume 11, so I reread volume 10 and then got into volumes 11 and 12. So without saying any spoilers, I did get really irritated by some of the developments in volume 11 after the drama and conflict in volume 10. I don't like the way most of the characters reacted to things, but at least everything was pretty much resolved in volume 11, and then volume 12 is like entirely repairing things. So really hoping volume 13 will get things back on track. Blue Box. I read volumes 1 and 2 of this shonen sports romance series set in high school. It follows a first-year boy who plays badminton and a second-year girl he has a crush on who plays basketball. So I thought it was going to be more sport-focused, but it was more slice of life, focusing on the main boy and his friends and his crush. I liked that it showed how determined and hardworking the kids are. and I like reading romance series, but I typically don't like to read sports series with romance, so I'll have to be in the mood when I come back to read more of this series. Life Lessons with Uramichi Oniisan. I read volumes 7 and 8, which make up this 4th English 2-in-1 omnibus volume. This is a josei comedy slice of life series that I really like. It follows a cynical man in his early 30s who works as the exercise instructor on a kids' TV program. The series is very episodic, and so far there isn't really an underlying plot, but I like the humor, so it hasn't gotten old for me at all. And the last 2 omnibus volumes have had bits of character development and glimpses into some of the characters' backstories, so I'm really hoping the next volume will continue to develop the characters and their relationships. The Savior's Book Café story in Another World. I read volume 5, which was the final volume of this isekai series. I really enjoyed it up to this point and enjoyed this final volume as well. I feel like every time there was trouble or conflict, I'd be waiting for the story to have a bit of an action arc, but every conflict is resolved really quickly. So this story is definitely more of a feel-good slice of life series. It has some adventure vibes because Tsukina is transported to a different world, but it's just so cozy and homey. For me, and probably most people in the manga community, this is such a dream scenario to have a little library in your home and run a cozy little cafe. I also really love the romance. Il is such a hunk and super sweet to Tsukina, but I definitely recommend this one if you want a cozy, feel-good read with adult main characters in their 30s. Next is Kimi ni Todoke. I can't even fit them all on camera. So I read volumes 1 to 30. I've been really excited to do a full read through of this series since I recently got the last couple volumes I was missing and completed the series in my collection. I'm so happy that Kimi ni Todoke was included in all of the reprints that Viz has been doing the past year, but this one was a buddy read with my girls Zoe and Jasmine and a few other friends on Instagram. I had so much fun. I love this series so much. It's my favorite high school romance series and one of my top favorite shoujo series. So my favorite character in the series is Ryu. I love his strong but quiet personality and his passion for the things that he cares about. I also really love Chizuru and Sawako. I wish I could have had a friend group like theirs when I was in school too. But I love that this series covers all 3 years of their time in high school, and I really like the character development and seeing the different friendships and the different romances. But I highly recommend this series. It also has a 2-season anime that is really good. It covers the content from volumes 1 to 11. So I definitely recommend the manga, even if you do watch the anime, so you can continue and see the rest of the story. Blue Sky Yell. I read volumes 1 and 2 of this shoujo high school romance series that follows a girl who joins the school band and a boy who plays on the baseball team. It's by the same mangaka who did High School Debut, and the reason I wanted to check it out is because the band teacher and another teacher in it have a little cameo in Kimi ni Todoke in one of the little side chapters. But so far, the main characters have been introduced, they're getting settled into their club, showing their determination, they're starting to face some challenges and are encouraging each other, so still just kind of getting started. This series hasn't been picked up in English yet, but it is complete at 19 volumes in Japanese. But I've only seen the fan translations through volume 8, and they haven't been updated since 2016, so I might just watch the live action since I won't be able to read all of it. Next is A Sign of Affection. I read volumes 5 and 6. This is a shoujo romance series set in university, following a deaf girl and a guy who loves to travel. So volume 6 was a long-awaited release, almost a year after the volume 5 release. But I really like this series, and good developments in this new volume as Itsuomi is dealing with certain personal things that could impact his relationship with Yuki. And then the ending of this volume is in the middle of a kind of cute situation, so looking forward to volume 7, which I think releases in October. But I really like the art style. The characters are all gorgeous. And I'm planning to read 2 of this creator's other series in June, so I'm looking forward to seeing more of their character designs and art style. The Way of the Househusband, I read volumes 3 to 9 of this seinen comedy slice of life series. The chapters are very episodic, following the daily life of a former Yakuza who now is a house husband caring for the responsibilities around the home, so cooking, cleaning, grocery shopping. And while doing these activities, he has the same mannerisms of a gangster, so he's constantly scaring people and having misunderstandings. I really like the humor in this series, but because there is not really a running plot line, the jokes do get kind of repetitive. But the mangaka did a really good job capturing facial expressions and body language, and I really like the character designs. Yakuza Fiancé, Raisei wa Tanagai. I read volumes 2 and 3. Still really enjoying this seinen drama series. It follows 2 grandchildren of Yakuza group heads who are being set up to be married. So with the newest volume, we see more of the dynamic between Yoshino and Kirishima. Some more insight into his way of thinking. This is definitely not a sweet romance series with bits of Yakuza themes. There is violent and troubling, problematic content. Both of the main characters are underage in their final year of high school, which I honestly forget about from volume 3 on because a lot of the upcoming content is no longer set at school. But that being said, I really like this series. It's really wild. A lot of the characters are just kind of crazy, but I feel like Yoshino is such a down-to-earth girl, and I really like how she is so adaptable to the different circumstances she's thrown into. She's not an especially strong character, but she's perceptive and good at reasoning and making decisions, and she's actually one of my favorite female manga characters. I also really like the art style. This series is by the same mangaka that did Haru's Curse, which is another series that I like a lot. But I'm really happy that the next 2 volumes are scheduled to release before the end of the year, so we might catch up to the Japanese release sometime next year. The Yakuza's Bias. I read volume 1 of this comedy series and I really liked it. It was really funny. It follows the second in command of a Yakuza group as he goes to a K-pop concert with the boss's daughter and gets sucked in and becomes a huge fanboy of one of the members. I feel like if I was more into K-pop or part of that community, it would have been even funnier, but I still really enjoyed it. It had some humor that reminded me of The Way of the Househusband, but with more of a storyline. And then it reminded me a lot of The Geek X Hitman, but I like the humor and art style in The Yakuza's Bias more. But I definitely recommend this if you like Yakuza characters and appreciate people getting obsessed with things that they like. Horimiya, I read volumes 1 to 16. This is a shonen slice of life romance series set in high school that follows a quiet boy and a popular girl who are very different outside of school and have an encounter that starts a friendship between them and then a romance. This was a buddy read with my friend Cadence and a few other friends on Instagram, and I'm really glad we were able to read it together to share the panels and developments we liked from each volume. It had been over 3 years since I read this series. I had read the fan translations of the new chapters up to the end of the series, so I was looking forward to reading the official translation from my physical volumes this time around. And the series was a bit different from my memory of my first read of it. It did bother me a bit how mean the kids are to each other at school and just the casual violence, but I know this is a comedy trope that appeals to some people. But I do really like the art style. I absolutely love Hori's dad, Kyosuke, and her little brother, Sota. They're my favorite characters, and I loved every scene with them, and the fact that they become the biggest Miyamura fanboys. My favorite romance in the series is Shindo and Chika, and then I liked Iura's sibling bond with his little sister. Also, I find it hilarious that it took forever to get this final physical volume in English, and volume 16 has final printed on the cover. And just a week before the release of volume 16, it was announced that there's going to be a volume 17, so we'll see if and when we get it in English. Like a Butterfly, I read volumes 1 to 3. This is a shoujo high school romance that follows a pretty girl who has a hard time dealing with boys because of past experiences of boys being infatuated with her. She takes notice of a boy who doesn't give her the usual type of attention she's used to and becomes interested in him. And then he's a very shy boy who has a hard time talking to girls and even making eye contact with them. It's really cute so far. I heard it's a very slow burn romance, and it really is just kind of slow in general so far, but it's very sweet. I like the art style. It's by the same creators as The Sign of Affection. This series is complete at 12 volumes, and it just got licensed in English with volume 1 releasing in July, so I'm planning to finish reading it next month to decide if I want to collect the physical volumes. But I'll have my full thoughts in next month's log. And the last series, Love Me, Love Me Not, I read volumes 1 to 6. This is a shoujo high school romance series by the same mangaka as Aoharu Ride, which is the only other series I've read by her. Love Me, Love Me Not has been on my TBR for a while, but I was putting it off because I've heard really mixed reviews from others who have read it. Some people loved it, some people really disliked it, but I'll be finishing it the first few days into June, so I'll wait to share my full thoughts until I've completed the series, so I'll have all my thoughts in my June reading log. So those were all my reads from May, and I also wanted to share what my tentative June TBR looks like. So like I just mentioned, I'm planning to finish off Love Me, Love Me Not and Like a Butterfly. So Love Me, Love Me Not, volumes 7 to 12, and then Like a Butterfly, volumes 4 to 12. I'm also planning to read all of Shortcake Cake, so volumes 1 to 12. I have read the first 2 volumes in the past, but it's been a little while, so I'm going to reread those 2 and then read through to the end. I'm also going to get into Golden Kamuy. I'm not sure how much of it I'll read, but at least the first couple volumes to see what it's like. And then I'll be reading my pre-order volumes as I receive them. So A Condition Called Love, Volume 3, In the Clear Moonlit Dusk, Volume 4, Rainbow Days Volume 4, and then Something's Wrong with Us Volume 15. So that's it for my May manga reading log and June TBR. And let me know in the comments what you've been reading lately or what you have on your TBR this month. But I'll see you again soon in another video. Thanks for watching.